Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watch One, and thanks for logging on. Today, we're looking at the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Offshore reference 25721ST. You can see this exceptionally early Royal Oak Offshore in steel on our website, watchyouwant.com. Purchase it there, and if you enjoy these videos, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Watch You Want Inc. You can also click on the card in the upper right-hand corner of the screen at any time to see our full listing for this watch with additional accessories included, high-resolution images, and naturally complete pricing details. Now on my wrist, 6 1/3 inches, 16 centimeters in circumference, this is the classical stance of the 42mm Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Offshore. As originally designed by Emmanuel Guyt and debuted at Bezel World 1993, the watch was an absolute aesthetic breakthrough, taking the essential design language of Gerald Genta's 1972 original and updating the size, proportions, and the emphasis of certain features to give it an outsized contemporary persona and an over-the-top wrist stance that was unprecedented at the time. Now this one is an exceptionally early variant. Literally, only the 925th reference 25721ST, the steel on a bracelet ever built. It actually has a D serial number, and those conclude pretty much in 1995. So between 93 and 95, watches of this type were made, and this is within the first 925 completed, and I'll show you why in a moment. In terms of its actual proportions and wrist stance, it's quite conventional, however. 42mm across the round of the case, not including the crown guards, the chronograph pushers, or the crown. It has an immense wrist presence and immense heft on the wrist. 14.5mm thick. It will clear the cuff of a sport jacket or a blazer because, quite frankly, that's not incredibly thick for a complicated sports watch, and there is a little bit of slope to the octagonal bezel, so perhaps with a jacket, a blazer, you're okay, but you're not going to fit a very tight dress cuff or sleeve over this timepiece. And another reason why this one's best worn outside the sleeve is the sheer Lug To Lug Span. Now the watch spans 54mm from one edge of the integrated lug case to the other, but if you take the outermost rigid bracelet plot, which is actually the outermost rigid point side to side, you wind up with a much more substantial 58mm lug to lug. That's a burly bruiser for your wrist, but it is very hefty, very solid, and inspires confidence. Now one of the nice things about this one is, although it is one of the first 925 made in steel, it doesn't have the flimsy stamped bracelet of the first 200 pieces. It has the more substantial double deployment with milled out swing arms seen on the later watches, so it's much more wearable, much more durable, and you get a greater sense of security when the watch is on your wrist. Now you can see it's a double deployant, and it uses a clamshell closure to keep it closed once you close the swing arms. The rest of the bracelet is surprisingly contemporary, and I say that because the concurrent model on a strap, the 25770ST, featured a single point hinge lug that is not compatible with modern bracelets and straps. That is to say, the dual plot system for the Offshore was pioneered on this early 721ST, not the 770 variant on a strap. So you can use this watch with modern hornbacks, diver straps, and modern AP bracelets. If you have the variant originally equipped on a strap from the first run of Royal Oak Offshores, you can't use it with modern bracelets and straps. So getting the 721 variant gives you a little bit more flexibility to change the look of the watch should you decide to. Part of the revolution of Emmanuel Guyt's design language circa 1993 was that the original Gerald Genta Royal Oak, a rather thin and fine sports watch, not an all-out utility reference, everything was simply scaled up. Everything was made bombastic, flamboyant, avant-garde, and you can see just how much more massive the case became. You can see the exposed bezel gasket on Genta's design, just something that's hinted at, just a sliver of rubber visible. It becomes an outright structural element, one of the three fundamental profile portions of the case, the bezel, and the gasket, each one having an important role, and the utilitarian element being brought out, made visible. The machine essentially taken from the inside to the outside. Now the bezel is classical Genta, but once again scaled up to a nightmare scale. Immense, with polished flanks and brushed top. It features stainless steel hexagonal bolts as opposed to the white gold on the traditional Royal Oak. And moving inboard, you can see the original Royal Oak Offshore Petite Tapisserie dial. Now this blue was the first variant to be equipped, and it was also characterized by a much smaller lozenge-like index called the Blob Index by collectors. You can see that the later Arabics are nowhere to be seen. It is a very particular dial, unique to the early offshores, and you can see everything from the chapter rings polished around the subdials to the Petite Tapisserie to the Lachange or Blob indices, characterizes this as an early and quite beautiful example of the Royal Oak Offshore. Now this isn't a time capsule piece, it isn't going to be a concours winner, it is an everyday wear. There are some elements such as the minute hand that are not completely unmarred. The case at some point has been refinished, not terribly, it's been well done, but it's best mentioning that this is a watch to wear. This is a daily driver with incredible historical merit. This is a watch you can wear without concern, and with a 100-meter water-resistant sports watch with an anti-magnetic inner iron cage, that's probably what you want to hear. You want to know that you can take this one out and have fun with it in summer 2016. Now I mentioned that this is an early example, and there's the proof. D serial number 925, literally the 925th 25721 ST ever made. With a JLC 2126 coupled to a Dubois de Praz 2840 vertical clutch chronograph module, you have an interesting tandem of high-end movements within this watch. Now, at the time this watch was made during the D series, Audemars Piguet owned 40% of Jaeger-LeCoultre, so the 889 base movement is something approaching an in-house caliber at this point in time. Now, it's an impressive movement with 54 joules, a vertical clutch chronograph, so if you like center seconds, leave it running. There's no additional wear and tear on the movement. Of course, it does have the underlying virtues of the JLC movement intact, such as hacking seconds. If you pull the crown, you stop the balance, permitting precise synchronization, and a quick set function for the date, currently hidden under the minutes hand. This is a versatile, handsome, and historically significant watch, and as I mentioned, not being an absolutely perfect piece, this is the one to wear and enjoy without a care. You can see this historic Royal Oak Offshore in steel and buy it on our website, watchyouwant.com.